BC. Welcome back. This is Luke with Hot Wax and Cool Vinyl, doing a vinyl grabs video. Just 3 records in total this week. When I did my vinyl tag 2019, one of the questions was, what holes are you looking to fill in your collection? And after giving it some thought, I always circle back to jazz. Art Pepper in particular, but jazz as a genre. So I started looking in that aspect and going into the new year in 2019. And I'm going to give a quick shout out of thanks once again to Chris over at First Pressing Goodness. Chris had mentioned in one of his videos, and Chris, forgive me, I just don't recall which one it was, that he had been doing a lot of buying on eBay and having success doing so. Now I must admit, I really have not, I do a lot of selling on eBay, but I have not been buying a lot of albums on eBay as of late. I just find them to be overpriced, for lack of a better word. I mean, you know, it is what it is. You know, you've got a very common album and some poor man or woman hears that records are coming back, and so they put a Chicago album up for like $40 and get very upset because it doesn't sell. So basically, I just kind of got disgusted with it. But Chris had said he had some success, and so I kind of went back and thought it through, and so I started making some very targeted searches on very select things, and I checked them 3 or 4 times a day on my phone. And you know what? He's right. I've been able to make a couple of buys and some real good ones. The first one I want to show you is the Oscar Peterson Trio, Sound of the Trio. And this is on Verve Records, and it's a Japanese pressing, as you can see. It comes complete with the obi, and I did buy it on eBay. And I did not spend, I spent less than $15 including shipping. So I was really, really pleased. Great looking record. Now, it is a 1985 reissue. However, it's a really good reissue. It's a great sounding record. Now, this particular album was recorded over a period. It was recorded at the London House in Chicago, and the tracks were recorded over a period of 3 months. Basically, in August, they recorded two of the tracks in August, or part of it in August, and the remaining was in October of 1961. So, Oscar Peterson Trio, Japanese pressing, complete with the obi, Verve Records. Very, very lovely album. I'm really pleased to have gotten it. And again, Chris, that was all on you. Thank you to you for reminding me that eBay can and remains a good source to purchase records, although it does require a little bit more work. The next is the Gardner Trio, which features Jimmy Smith and Bill Davis. This one also still in the shrink. This one did not come on from eBay. This just came from a moving sale. After digging through the entire stack of records, I think they had like, I don't know, maybe 400 albums. This was the only one I came away with. On Crown Records, recorded in 1963. Nice white label, not a promo, but really nice white label Crown Records album. Very good sound, still in the shrink. Now they have this as just like a swing jazz or jazz. Now I think, to me, it sounds more bop-ish than swing-ish. But again, I also don't have such a great ear yet for jazz. But I do like it. It takes a little bit to listen to get used to. I had to listen to it like 4 times before I really started getting into it. But by the 4th time you give this a spin, you really start noticing the subtleties in the musical acumen of the trio, and it really comes through with great vibrancy after a couple of times of listening to it. The first time I listened to it, I really was like, oh my God, I gotta sell this thing. I really can't deal with it. And then I listened to it again, and by the fourth time I was like, wow, this is really, really interesting now. And so Don Gardner Trio featuring Will Smith and Bill Davis, very good record, and actually not terribly expensive on Discogs. I think it's like a median price point of, I don't know, $3 or so. So it's really, if you can get your hands on it, and you should be able to, it's pretty easy to get. Listen to it. Just be prepared if you're newish to jazz, or if you're not a musician like I am. I'm not a musician. I play guitar. Play the guitar might be a bit of an exaggeration. I strum a few chords on the guitar. But if you're not a musician, or if you're not a jazz aficionado, and you haven't quite tuned your ear to jazz yet, it may take you a couple of listens to really develop a liking for that particular record, but it's worth it. It really is worth it. Finally, as mentioned, Art Pepper. This is Art Pepper at the Village Vanguard, More for Less. This is on Contemporary Records. Let me pull it out of the plastic. Now this one on Contemporary Records was a 1977 issue on Contemporary. There we go. Beautiful yellow Contemporary label with the black print. Just fantastic looking label. It's just simple but elegant, and just jumps right at you. So it's with the Contemporary labels, one of my favorites. Yeah, I know I'm struggling to put this record back, so tell you what, close your eyes for 30 seconds and pretend I did this smoothly. Come on, no, don't look, don't look, stop looking. I'm having a hard time here. So this one, okay, I'm done. Volume 4, as you would expect, it has 4 records set. This was recorded. What was this recorded? July 28th through July 30th in '77. As you can imagine, there are 4 of these particular records. There's Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, the first 3, and then the one I was able to acquire, which is which is the 4th installment. This was, again, recorded at the Vanguard in New York. For those of you who aren't familiar, Vanguard was a famous jazz club in New York. And you really, you played the Vanguard, you kind of made it in the jazz scene, at least in the New York scene anyway. So Pepper was there and he recorded. It was 4 nights, 1977 was when he recorded this. And that's a bop album, and I like it quite a bit. By then, he's basically done all his prison time, and he's a much more mature person. According to some of the... I haven't read the biography that he wrote with his third wife yet, but according to a lot of discography that I was able to glean, by '77, he had gone through the whole methadone rehab, so he had kind of kicked the heroin addict, if you actually can, but at least he had tamed it enough where it wasn't, it wasn't overwhelming him, and so he was able to play, and you can kind of hear it in this particular album. The way he plays and the way in his interaction, it really sounded like he was really in the moment when he's playing this. And the live albums are always a little bit tough. Some of the bands, if they're just out doing a gig and it's just a gig, that's, you can tell. But when they're really into it and they're performing and the audience is giving them that feedback, it's a different sound. It's a a much more intense experience, and so the musician plays much more intensely. And I think that's kind of what you get, at least on this particular live album. I do not have volumes 1 through 3. Those will be picked up sometime during the course of the year. But at least I get that sense from listening to this album. And it's also, if you read it, it's actually part of it's on the jacket, where he explains what the feeling was going into it. The musicians on this particular album, you got Art Pepper. He also plays the clarinet, which is really cool on this one. George Cable's on piano, George Mraz on bass, and Elvin Jones on drums. Just really, really, really a fun, maybe not so much fun, but it's a great album, and will be indebted to my good friend Bradley over at William Now for being the first to indoctrinate me into the wonderful world of Art Pepper. I know all you jazz guys knew who he was long, long ago. I understand, but this 56-year-old punk rocker had no idea who Art Pepper was until Bradley mentioned it, and I bought my first Art Pepper album, Smack Up, and been kind of a love affair with his style of play ever since. So these are my vinyl grabs for this week. 3 albums, like I said, and I try to keep it around 10 minutes to try to keep it spiffy and short. As an aside, we are listening to some psych rock from Absolutely What? Yeah, no, that's the band's name. Have a wonderful week, everybody. Today's Sunday. It's a nice sunny Sunday on Long Island, out here on the East End. It's not even terribly cold. It's only like in, I don't know, upper 30s. So it's pretty legit. So hey, have a great week, everybody. Enjoy yourselves. Have a terrific Sunday evening dinner, I hope, with your families and your loved ones. Speak to everybody soon. Cheers.